All right, let's try this again.
Either early artillery pieces capable of firing heavy projectiles, or advanced ballistae of incredible power. The presence of such technology suggests that the level of engineering thought in antiquity was immeasurably higher than commonly believed, and many technologies were simply lost or forgotten over the centuries. The geography of these creatures was not limited to one region. The chronicles take us to India and other corners of the ancient world, where locals in specific headdresses and clothing fight large dragons that lack legs but possess massive ridges on their backs. To neutralize these reptiles, clubs and fire are used, indicating a high degree of danger and the prey's resilience. Latin captions.
Well, I don't know what happened there, but I could guess, but we'll just chalk it down to bad luck. So let's continue, guys. Here, hopefully, everyone can find me back here on my page.
Classify these creatures as a separate species, clearly distinguishing them from familiar reptiles. The global nature of this struggle with monsters makes one wonder if the land was inhabited by such formidable creatures requiring the use of artillery and fire, then what horrors lurked in the depths of the oceans and on other continents where sailors were just beginning to forge a path. The world of that era was full of dangers, and humans were forced to constantly defend their right to exist in an environment where they were far from the only dominant predator. If we turn our gaze from land battles with reptiles to the water, it becomes obvious that the oceans of the antediluvian world harbored threats incomparable to modern ideas of marine fauna. The Chronicle.
Yeah, this is some pretty crazy stuff. Like, look at all the people, the monsters, and the city. Just like look at the city there, and the boats float into that walled, city. It's just, yeah, it's incredible. And they found all kinds of artifacts and old, buildings that resemble this kind of stuff. Like, come on, our history is such a lie, and these old ancient books are amazing. I just love them. So let's go. Enough of my yapping.
Transport us to the harbor of a large ancient city, the architecture of which resembles the grandeur of Rome. However, the peaceful life of the port is disrupted by the appearance of a creature that can boldly be called a sea leviathan. This is not just a large fish or whale, but an aggressive monster that launches targeted attacks on human vessels. The described creature possesses the ability to spew powerful jets of
Hello.
water, using them as a biological long-range weapon. These water blasts possess such kinetic energy that they are capable of sinking or capsizing approaching boats, turning fishing or trade into a deadly enterprise.
Yeah, the last stream, it died on me. Gee, I wonder why, but let's just chalk it down to bad luck, like I said. So how's it going, Lemon? Cheers. Are you learning history here? Thanks for popping in there, class.
The reaction of the city's inhabitants to this threat is strikingly organized. The monster is not just scared away, it is caught in a pre-prepared trap. The use of giant nets and special mechanisms indicates that such invasions by sea giants were not isolated incidents, but a regular problem for which established technology and port infrastructure existed. Moving further along the geography of this forgotten world, the document reveals the existence of entire peoples who are today considered figments of the imagination. A panorama unfolds on the pages, showing a cruel and destructive war between a race of extremely small people, pygmies, and a population of giant birds. This confrontation is total in nature. Banners, spears,
Can you hear me talking to you?
and siege tactics are all used. The small warriors demonstrate a high degree of social organization and military skill. Their cavalry is particularly noteworthy. These people use goats as war mounts, which looks strange to us, but
I
was
don't know.
obviously an effective solution in their environment. The birds, in turn, defend their nesting grounds and offspring, turning the conflict into a struggle for territory and resources. It is important to note that the description of this strange people and their eternal war with feathered giants.
So you can hear me talk about whatever I'm talking about, correct?
Not a unique invention of the author of this book. Similar evidence is found in the medieval Odyssey and numerous sources describing the lands of Great Tartaria. The presence of cross-references in different documents of that era confirms that we are dealing not with a myth, but with systematic knowledge of the real ethnography of the past. Travelers and chroniclers from different countries recorded the same facts, making the existence of this forgotten race a historical reality subsequently erased from textbooks. The world was inhabited by many intelligent species that vanished or were destroyed.
Wow.
But if pygmies fought birds on the outskirts of the known world, events no less frightening were taking place in the centers of ancient civilizations.
It's strange.
The chronicler's gaze shifts to
It's
the...
strange. I can't see my chat, so, but I can, but I can't. But wow, crazy. Anyways, let's have fun. Let's not think about this, and let's watch some crazy antediluvian, antediluvian history. Here we go.
Valley, where survival methods required even greater ingenuity and courage. Moving across the map of the ancient world toward the Nile Valley, we encounter an even more detailed and frightening description of the local fauna. The Egypt captured in this document is far from the familiar pastoral scenes of agriculture. This is a territory of a harsh struggle for survival, where humans faced creatures...
What's going on? Are you pregnant now too?
whose biology provokes heated debates. The chronicles detailed the process of hunting giant reptiles that lived in rocky crevices and caves. Locals used complex tactics. A predator possessing colossal strength was lured into a confined space previously equipped with heavy nets and traps. Only after immobilizing the beast could the hunters proceed to eliminate it with bows and spears, which speaks to the incredible danger of a direct confrontation. Skeptics might argue...
Yeah, that's a gimme. I figured it would be. But congratulations, man. Right on. Let's go.
These are simply Nile crocodiles, but an anatomical analysis of the depicted creatures completely destroys this theory. The manuscript's author records details with scientific pedantry that make it impossible to identify these beasts with known species. Unlike low-slung crocodiles, whose limbs are adapted mainly for swimming and short bursts, the creatures in the book possess long, powerful legs, allowing them to develop high speed on land and lift their bodies high above the ground. Their backs are adorned with massive ridges, and the structure of the scales and skull indicate they belong to a completely different class.
No.
The Latin captions support historical period. Relict species of dinosaurs or dragons existed in Egypt and were part of the daily ecosystem. But the biological mysteries of that time are not limited to giant lizards alone. In this same section of the document, the presence of creatures we are used to considering products of ancient mythology is recorded. We are talking about satyrs, humanoids with a human torso, but the legs of cloven-hoofed animals and horns on their heads. In the context of this book, where everything is depicted with documentary precision, their appearance looks not like an allegory, but like the recording of a real biological fact. A logical question arises. Were these creatures the result of natural evolution, a dead-end branch of development, or are we seeing traces of ancient genetic experiments? Their coexistence with...
Yeah, sorry about that. It can't, Can you buy a new Mac tomorrow? No, I can't buy shit tomorrow, honey. Well, I can, but I can't. I need to get a contract. So look at these guys. These are like little, what the fuck? Oh, okay, it's my battery. These are like little, what do you call it? Herc, come on, Herc. What are those things called? I forget. Oh, damn it. But they're those guys, the little Pied Piper guys. Herc, come on. Don't you remember that Hercules show? Minotaur.
Is presented as a given, without a hint of mysticism, which forces us to rethink the nature of many legends. Perhaps what we thought were fairy tales was merely a description of our ancestors' real
Oh,
neighbors.
thanks there, Dixie Floppin'.
This world, filled with predatory reptiles and genetic chimeras, seems chaotic and hostile. Humanity, surrounded by such...
Yes, well, if you have old lady glasses, maybe that's because you're an old lady. Shh.
could hardly have built a developed civilization alone.
Which is kind of sexy.
And here the chronicle takes a sharp turn. Leaving behind the wild nature, the narrative moves to the second part, revealing the secret of governing this complex world.
Wow.
Someone had to bring order to this chaos, and these someones possess power and knowledge beyond human understanding. It is time to look at those whom the ancients called gods.
Here we go.
Transitioning to the second part of this mysterious manuscript,
Yeah.
we leave behind the wild wastelands inhabited by monsters and enter the ordered world of human society. However, this order is maintained by forces whose nature is fundamentally different from familiar religious dogmas.
So yeah, if
this
we
chronicle,
if we could see this closer, which kind of sucks that I can't bring it up, but they're like, these are the gods, you know, the sun, Jupiter, whatever, Pluto, Mars, and yeah, it's a trip. It's all this esoteric symbolism. It's encapsulated in all of these pictures. It's just wild, you know. There's so much to read in these pictures if you knew how to read it. It's crazy.
so-called gods appear not as ethereal disembodied spirits residing in unreachable heavenly halls, but as entirely material rulers present here and now.
We can share.
They descend to people not in the form of metaphorical visions, but on very real transport vehicles, complex flying chariots and wagons, accompanied by an entourage and a display of material wealth. These higher entities fulfill the role of direct curators of civilization. A picture of the global education of humanity unfolds before us. The gods, depicted with portrait-like precision, personally oversee key spheres of life. They teach people agriculture, control the processes of forging weapons, and provide instruction in spinning, architecture, and navigation.
Yeah.
This is not mystical inspiration, but a concrete management process. Divine mentors, such as Panacea or figures representing the police, allegorically and factually personify medicine and political structure, implementing laws and technologies into human society. The Latin maxims accompanying these scenes glorify labor, discipline, and the victory over idleness. This ideology reminds us of strict social systems of the recent past, where every individual was a cog in a huge machine, and higher powers acted as strict teachers and overseers.
Oh, you guys are cute.
With a firm hand.
You guys are sweet. I love you. Thank you.
The hypothesis stemming from this evidence is that the antediluvian civilization was governed from the outside, or coexisted with a more developed race. These gods lived among people, were an integral part of society, but occupied the top of the hierarchical pyramid. They gave people sciences, art, music, and alchemy.
Yeah.
Turning the...
So think about this for a sec. What he's saying what they've also said in the Bible about what the fallen angels did to the humans. So the narrative, which, you know, is being presented in all kinds of cultures, is there was a race of beings that were, you know, that had a lot more powers than we did, and they basically taught us. And yeah, so, you know, and the other thing is we're in the year like 1325 or something like this. The real, you know, they've changed the calendar so much. So, you know, like, my point is, I don't think some of this stuff was that far back. You know, I don't think it was that long ago, really. But
world
that's
into
just
a highly
me.
developed structure. One gets the impression that the humanity of that time was under the patronage of powerful guardians who not
You
only
too.
protected their wards from the external environment, but also forced their development. passing on knowledge for which people were perhaps not yet ready on their own. However, the social distance between mentors and students was emphasized not only by status or clothing. A careful analysis of the images reveals a fundamental biological difference between the ruling elite and the common population.
Yeah, that's true. That in a lot of these pictures too, the different beings, not just the gods too, but the different like hominid beings, like they look, they have different features and real distinct. There's kind of like these orc looking ones, and there's littler ones, like little pygmy looking ones and stuff. It's yeah, me too. Me too. I think they're already fucking here. What, are you kidding me? But
Inequality
yeah.
strikes the eye as soon as we begin to compare the scale of the figures in the engravings. Divine rulers and heroes of antiquity dominated the crowd not only metaphorically, but physically, possessing parameters that today would be considered an anomaly. It is this aspect, the gigantism of historical figures,
Yeah.
that becomes the key to understanding the true face of antiquity.
So even the CN Rail building, where I was just when I was talking to my buddy, so the American Hotel is right by that. I've shown you guys this building before, but the doorway is 14, 15 feet, the original doorway. The windows are huge, and the inside ceiling, the interior ceiling, it's got mosaics on the top of it, and it's at least 60 feet high. 60-foot high ceiling. And this is a building made out of incredible concrete, which would be able to withstand some kind of, cataclysm, right? Then you just got to kind of wash it up and refit it. And it looks like that's what went on. Monster hunting. Yeah, Jem, sometimes when you go looking for things, you find them.
Exploring the engravings dedicated to great historical figures and rulers
Yeah,
of the past,
it's an idea.
we encounter a phenomenon that cannot be dismissed as artistic convention or an allegory of greatness. In this chronicle, the scale of the figures has a direct physical meaning, and it is shocking. It is generally accepted that people of antiquity were shorter than us, but this document testifies to the opposite. The world was ruled by true giants. This is most vividly manifested in the image of three legendary commanders, Alexander the Great, Hector of Troy, and Julius Caesar. Their figures are drawn with meticulous detail, and it is the ratio of their bodies to the surrounding environment and animals that reveals the
Yeah,
truth.
look at the size of Hannibal on an elephant, man. He's riding it like it's a horse, like it's a dog. So that's a big guy, man. Like, come on. Come on.
Alexander
Come
the
on.
Great is depicted riding an elephant. However, looking at the proportions, a sense of cognitive dissonance arises. The powerful war animal beneath him looks no bigger than a pony. The elephant barely
I
reaches
want a
the commander's
pony.
waist if you were to dismount. This is not a miniaturized copy of the animal, but the gigantism of the rider himself. If we compare the size of the elephant, even a small one,
The
with the
elephant?
figure of the person sitting on it, then the height of Alexander and his companions, Hector and Caesar, must be at least 2.5 or even 3 meters. Horses next to such warriors seem like miniature toys, which explains the legendary physical strength of the heroes of antiquity, capable of changing the course of battles single-handedly. Superhumans in a biological sense. This disproportion is also
Sorry,
traced in
guys.
scenes of peaceful life depicting the royal court and construction work.
My professionalism here. I must apologize. Yeah, so check the pyramids out, eh? Look at this, and then look at all the look at the symbolism on these things. And when you think about it, there's pyramids all over the world. Like North America has thousands of pyramids. China, my God, they're everywhere. A lot of mountains are pyramids. They've just been covered over. Uh, um, yeah, just even here in BC, I've seen a couple. So it's the thing too, man, about okay, when you drive BC, there's only certain highways, and in between the highways is miles and miles and miles of forest and dark, forest that you could have there could be a whole city of whatever, a whole military base, whatever, and you'd never know. So that's the one thing about BC. It always trips me out, especially when we were driving into Penticton there. This the low road that I took, man. I think I showed you guys a couple times the Sasquatch sort of area, but dude, when you feel like you're being watched, you feel like you're being watched, and it's a trippy feeling. Believe me, I know.
Rulers sitting on thrones or overseeing the production of bricks and the erection of
Yeah,
statues tower over their entourage like parents over small
the erection. Did you hear that? Erection.
children. However, looking closely at the servants, we see that they are not children.
Yeah,
They have adult
exactly.
faces, beards, developed musculature, and they are performing heavy physical labor.
Apparently, there is a few tribes that have not had any contact with civilization. I mean, I'm sure they've seen a plane or whatever, but yeah, there's a couple of them.
These are fully grown adults of ordinary height who look like dwarfs only against the background of the gigantic ruling elite. Such visualization confirms the theory of the existence of two biologically distinct castes, people of ordinary height and giant rulers,
Yeah, look at the
who possessed
difference.
power and special status. The chronicles are not limited to deep antiquity, bringing the narrative up to the age of discovery, which
Yeah.
casts doubt on this part of official history as well. Images of Christopher Columbus, Amerigo Vespucci, and Ferdinand Magellan are filled with details usually ignored by textbooks. Their expeditions are shown not as solitary voyages of brave captains into the unknown.
Look at all the mermaids and like look at yeah, just crazy. And there's a lot of we haven't explored the ocean very much. I think that's what NASA explores. I don't think they go into space. I really don't. But you know, that's just crazy.
But as missions accompanied by higher powers. The ships of the discoverers are surrounded not
Gemma.
only by sea monsters and mermaids, but also by flying deities on chariots who literally point the way and protect the travelers. Flags with Christian symbols sit side by side with pagan gods hovering in the heavens, hinting that the discovery of new continents was part of a global plan curated by that same ancient elite. Magellan and Columbus were accompanied by entities whose nature went beyond human understanding,
Manifest
ensuring
destiny.
the success of their enterprises.
Look
If
at
we
these
accept
things.
the fact that
That's like Poseidon and shit, man. Look at these guys. They've got like snake dragon feet. It's crazy.
history possessed a height of 3 meters and enjoyed the support of flying curators, it becomes obvious that their habitat must have corresponded to these scales. The cities in which these giants lived could not have been simply a collection of primitive huts. Their architecture was obliged to reflect the grandeur and physical parameters of their creators.
Yeah. And it's still
The
standing.
architectural look of this antediluvian world, captured on the pages of the folio, raises no fewer questions than the biology of its inhabitants. If we take into account the gigantic stature of the rulers and the presence of advanced technologies, it becomes clear that the urban planning of that era must have met completely different standards. Studying the images of cities, we encounter forms and structures that radically diverge from the data of classical archaeology, hinting that many ancient monuments known to us today may be merely pale copies or distorted reconstructions of the genuine structures.
Yeah, they are scary.
This discrepancy is most vividly manifested in the depiction of Egypt. The massive triangular silhouettes of the Giza pyramids we are used to are missing here. Instead, the horizon is pierced by incredibly high and narrow structures resembling giant needles or spires. These architectural dominants look more like technical devices, antennas or energy towers, than tombs of pharaohs.
And look at this one. This dragon is caught in there with a net, and the whole Spanish Armada is... And they have horns. They've got these sound weapons. Yeah, you know, in World War... What was it? World War One? No, World War Two. EMI, the record company from England that was with the Beatles, was started as a military... it was a military operation to make sound weapons. And same with the Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead sound engineer, the guy, he built his own soundboard, and he also had military connections to the U.S. military. Go figure. Sound weapons. Oh yeah, David Bowie talked about a sound bomb. No, I can't, Ricky. I'm sorry. I couldn't. I've tried. I apologize.
The result of a cardinal reconstruction hid the true purpose of these objects. Strange symbols and bones are visible on these spires, which may indicate a connection between these places or warn of danger. But the engineering thought invested in these skyscrapers of antiquity clearly exceeded the capabilities of simple stonemasons. Moving to Europe, we see structures that are usually attributed to Roman civilization, but in a completely different context. The famous amphitheater, resembling the Colosseum, is depicted not as a majestic ruin, but as an absolutely intact, functioning machine. Gladiator fights are in full swing. The stands are even more ancient infrastructure.
Not just a building, you know.
History.
Pack there. I mean, talk about the sides of the fence. These guys they had their hands in all kinds of pies. And yeah, it goes, you know, without saying, just the connection with the LSD and the universities and the people around it. But that's for a different show. So let's get back into this history. But I hear you, Footprints. It's fascinating. I love it.
However, the most striking discovery is the architectural unity of the planet.
Yep.
Examining engravings labeled India, a researcher is surprised to discover landscapes indistinguishable from classical European urban development.
See, that's the one thing they can't, you know, that's undeniable, is the architecture is on every continent. How does that, like, come on. That just doesn't make sense. Unless it did make sense, you know.
Of traditional pagodas or Hindu temples, we see majestic cathedrals with colonnades and wide avenues that could easily be mistaken for the streets of St. Petersburg or Rome. This visual evidence is a powerful argument in favor of the theory of a unified antique civilization. It seems that, before the global catastrophe,
probably having a baby pretty soon. Look where she is there, Jelly.
The world was united by a common cultural and technological code. A unified style, so-called antique standardization, reigned from the banks of the Ganges to the Mediterranean, confirming that borders between nations were erased, and the world was governed according to the uniform patterns of that same higher caste. This world of monumental grandeur, where technologies allowed for the erection of spires and the architectural style was universal for the entire planet, seemed unshakable. It looked like a perfect system built to last for centuries. But it is precisely this apparent invulnerability that makes its fall even more tragic and mysterious. What could crush a civilization capable of taming dragons and building cities of giants? The answer to this question is hidden in the final, darkest, and most alarming pages of the book, where grandeur is replaced by chaos and destruction. The final pages of the ancient manuscript immerse us in the atmosphere of an impending apocalypse and a total transformation of the world order. If the beginning of the book demonstrated stability and grandeur, the finale describes the painful process of the old era breaking down. The majestic world of unified architecture and high technologies begins to burst at the seams, and the first signs of this disintegration are religious and ideological conflicts. The chronicle dispassionately records scenes of mass worship of the golden calf, a symbol traditionally associated with the departure from true faith and a descent into materialism.
Well, yeah.
People blowing trumpets and indulging in ecstasy around the idol look like a society that has lost its moral compass and is in a state of spiritual agony.
Sounds familiar.
Following this, processes begin that resemble a violent change of the civilizational paradigm. We see the destruction of statues and monuments of the past. One engraving captures the moment of toppling a colossus with symbolism resembling a star, which may refer to the cult of Mithra or another solar religion. This is not just vandalism, but a purposeful erasure of memory. Iconoclasm marking the arrival of new beliefs, perhaps early.
So, I think the okay, just a sec here. Don't fuck me over. There we go. I think we're in an enclosed system, and ether energy is what they harvest. I do think dragons are more real than dinosaurs. Makes a lot more sense to me. But yeah, and who knows about the breathe? I'm sure they probably could breathe fire. Who knows? I mean, I really do believe the myths are a little more accurate than our history, to tell you the truth. And yeah,
Christianity, which displaced old cults with fire and sword. The change of religious scenery takes place against a backdrop of ruins, implying that the ideological war was accompanied by real combat operations and catastrophic destruction of cities. Chaos also penetrates the biological nature of man. Closer to the end
look at that. That's a Sipacella sinus or whatever. Oh, fuck, I can't remember the name. But the dog-headed guy.
Images of creatures appear that look like the final stage of genetic degeneration, or the result of failed experiments spiraling out of control. Strange people with dog heads, the legendary cynocephaly.
Cynocephaly, that's it.
One such character is depicted in a grotesque pose, devouring an object resembling a model of a building, which can be interpreted as an allegory.
So these cynocephali have been noted in multiple different accounts, like in different books from different people, on maps and in stories and in journals. Also, Saint Christopher is a cynocephaly. So there's an actual Catholic saint that's a dog-headed dude. I can't make this up, man. So these guys were running around. Same with the Bellamy's, the ones with, I think I showed you guys that before too, the ones that have the face on their stomach. Yeah. So apparent, and that's so the Monster Night. So that's where that book came from. It was pre, or I guess maybe anti or after the flood travels, and the guy is like, documenting these different creatures that they're finding. So yeah, I think that book was like legit. There's some other ones I've seen, these where it had parasites in the heart. They drew the whole parasite. It's just crazy, and that's kind of a thing too. So
of a civilization devouring its own foundations. People with deformed bodies and beastly heads testify that the purity of the biological species, which was perhaps maintained by the higher curators, was lost.
The Canaanites.
The culmination of this tragedy is the disappearance of those very god teachers. The logic of the narrative leads us to the theory of a global reset. The divine entities that taught people sciences and arts, managed construction, and maintained order leave the stage. They do not die, but seem to remove themselves, leaving humanity alone with its vices, mutations, and destroyed infrastructure. Perhaps their mission was completed, or the experiment was deemed a failure. Hours marked the beginning of the Dark Ages, degradation, and the loss of technologies, turning the once unified and prosperous world into scattered fragments that had to relearn how to survive.
And that's what the mud flood possibly was.
This book is a unique document that serves as evidence that history as we know it is merely a thin crust hiding an abyss of the forgotten past beneath it. This is proof of a reality where magic was simply high science, monsters were part of the ecosystem, and gods walked the earth. We live on the ruins of a titanic civilization whose greatness we are only beginning to realize.
Oh yeah,
by
T-Dot.
such messages from the depths of the ages.
That's the truth too. Like, okay, if you look in the Vatican and you look at the one of the main statues of the Vatican, it is so satanic. Also in the Vatican, it looks like a snake. It looks like a snake's head. Like, are you kidding me, man? And people just don't see it. They're like, oh, blah, blah. Like, come on. And they like don't even get so. Yeah, geez, I wish I had the archives ready, guys. Like, the whole fish hat for the Pope is like it's all about this Dogon tribe or this Dogon creature or whatever. It's like a sea creature and all this kind of stuff. That's what it represents, is this fish. And oh yeah, these guys are they're just into it, man. They're just into it.
If you were impressed by these testimonies of the past world, write in the comments. Do you believe in the existence of giants and dragons in our real history? Like this video, share it with your friends, and be sure to subscribe to the channel.
All right.
We will continue to dig up the truth that has been hidden from us.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming to the concert tonight. Yeah, I was just sort of testing, but I figured I'd roll with it. I was hoping to try to get it bigger, but I couldn't get it bigger. I couldn't get it bigger. So, I need to do a video on the Pope. Okay, I'll do a video on the Pope. Yeah. Anyways, thank you everyone for popping in. It's interesting, again, I can't read the chat on this channel. Fucking people just gotta leave me alone, man. Get a life. Anyways, thanks again, guys. Thank you.